All right, good afternoon, and welcome to the regular public hearing and regular meeting of the Town of Darien Sewer Commission. It is Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, calling the meeting to order at 4:34 p.m. We are meeting virtually using the town's go-to platform as posted with the town clerk and on our website. The first item on our agenda is to move forward with our public hearing on the proposed amendments to the Town of Darien Code, Appendix C, Administrative Regulations, Article 11, Sanitary Sewer Regulations, Section 1000-6.2, Sewer User Fees. For the record, I suppose I'll read some sections of the legal notice, which was published in the Darien Times on August 19th, at the very least. It is the Town of Darien Sewer Commission will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 at 4:30 p.m. via remote access for the purpose of affording property owners and residents within the Town of Darien an opportunity to be heard concerning proposed amendments to the Darien Code of Ordinance, Appendix C, Administrative Regulations. Public participation is available via email at dariensc@darienct.gov by 4 p.m. on September 7th, 2021, or via remote access contacts below with the links to the meeting we now are part of. And I've already noted the section of the regulations that is subject to amendment, and the amendments would generally be affecting 6.6-2.1 to be made effective October 1, 2021, if we so vote, that the standard charge shall be at a rate of up to $6.70 per 100 cubic feet of water. And similarly, section 6-3.1 would be made effective October 1st, 2021, if we chose to vote so, that the minimum service charge would be up to $260.36 per year. All members of the public are invited to participate and will be given an opportunity to be heard regarding the proposed changes. So with that said, do I technically need, I should have made a motion to go into public hearing to start. I mean, it was advertised for this moment, but well, let's.
You want a motion, Craig?
Yeah, let's do a motion to open the public hearing and public comment.
I'll make a motion. We will go into public hearing.
I'll second it.
Okay, Reese motion, Bob second. Reese, is that a yes?
Yes.
Bob, is that a yes?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So 5-0, we're in the public hearing. Are any members of the public on the call specifically to talk about the potential rate change or rate changes? Yes, Ralph.
Good afternoon, and thank you for conducting this public hearing. If you wouldn't mind, I could use a refresher on the math logic to the proposed rate increase. If someone could just walk through that quickly.
Sure. Ed or Darren, do you have that at your fingertips? Got it back here. Let me grab my previous agenda, which has got better information in it. Okay. I think it was actually, you know what, it's also in the minutes. It's a good summary in the minutes. Here's the minutes. There were two components. Each year, we keep our eye on the amount of money in our reserve accounts. And because that can provide a buffer for minor changes in revenue. And this past year, the amount of money in our reserve accounts took a significant hit. And I want to say, here we go. I've got a spreadsheet here from the last agenda, item 7, page 2 of 5. The balance on July 24th, 2020 in our sewer fund was 2.3 million. And the balance on a year later, on July 26, 2021, is 1.2 million. So we had a $1 million drop in our sewer fund balance. Now, some of that is timing. Some of that is money we are waiting for reimbursement on from the state. But even accounting for those two things, the trend is in a clear direction, that we are not replacing the amount of money in our sewer fund at the same rate that we are spending it. So that's one part of the reasoning to have an increase, the modest, I think it was a 2 or 3% increase. We are considering. What's that?
I think it was something a little over 2.
Yeah. Okay. What's the?
We said up to 2.29%.
Up to 2.29% is what we are considering. The second is our now what is our multi-year effort that we've started to do a thorough investigation of our system, with the realization that most of the components of our system are going on 80 years old, and are clearly letting in clean water that we don't want in the system. So whether it's groundwater getting into the system or surface water getting into the system, we are dealing with too much water in our system, and it hurts us in two ways. One, we send a lot of water to Stanford, which is very expensive to treat, and they don't discern between whether we're sending them clean water or dirty water to treat. And two, in rainfall events like the ones we've seen just last week and back in July, the amount of infiltration and inflow, which would be the influence of groundwater and surface water on the system, is such that it causes sewers to overflow. So unfortunately, given the age of our system and the 80 miles and 14 or 16 pump stations that make it up, we have a lot of work to do to both investigate where problems might be and then fix those problems. So right now we're spending on soft costs with our consultants. That's the bit of money that we're hoping to have at least 50% of it or 55% of it reimbursed by the state. But we're paying the other 45%, and that's occurring now. Eventually, we're going to get into hard costs and real fixes that cost real dollars. Now, we'll have to make a decision at that time, the types of projects that we might consider using our sewer fund balance for versus the types of projects we will bond. We've also been given some bonding capacity by votes of the Board of Finance and RTM. But that really is a starting amount, not considered the ending amount. Anyway, so those are some of the reasons we said instead of no change, we think we ought to have a modest uptick, just to make sure we keep things financially in the black.
I understand. All I can do is echo what I think I mentioned at the last meeting when this same topic came up at the time, is move with all speed to identify where that INI is, so we can move with all speed to rectify the INI that's coming in. That's all I can say. Otherwise, I think the township and anybody who's listening in needs to understand that these types of rates are going to continue and possibly escalate unless we start to arrest the INI issue. And that's what I am very much focused on. To my thinking and to my mind, this is probably one of the biggest public works challenges that the town has in the near future, right now and going into the future. And I certainly am going to want to see that that is followed through to its fullest extent. And I don't think we really know yet, without having, you know, some data coming in from the consultant's analysis, you know, the scale of the problem. And that's partly why I'm concerned, is because I think we're going to realize that the scale, unfortunately, I think is going to be possibly greater than we even realize. And so that's why I'm looking at this with a sense of urgency, as I know you are as well. And I know there's a calendar on these projects. I just wanted to chime in, since this is a public hearing, and say, yes, please move forward with all vigor.
We definitely appreciate the extra eyes and the extra voice, and we 100% agree and want to keep the right amount of vigor, the right amount of pressure, moving this forward as quickly as we smartly can. You know, we've asked in the past over this last year and a half, and the thought occurred to me today. I'll share, Ed, what you told me, which is we did one of our first smoke tests. Was it today or I think?
Yes.
So Ed's gummed up, and we already found a catch basin at the old post office, which is hooked into the sewer system, right? So I immediately thought, let's fix it. Let's get it off there now. Can we get out there with an excavator tomorrow? And we'll figure that out. It's in the middle of a proposed development project, right? Which, so therefore it probably could have been fixed or will be fixed. Anyway, we've asked before, as we get bits of information, to go. But we will proceed smartly and with haste.
All right, thank you very much.
And Craig, if I might add, and thanks for jumping in. I, for some reason, couldn't find last week's stuff, so last month's stuff,
Yeah.
so I have it here now. But Paul, just to make a point so you can understand what's the magnitude right now, we do have flow impacts of flow that we send to Stanford, and I also have the water usage for the town of Darien. That's generally the numbers I give the sewer commission right off the bat, so they can see the impact of the I&I. This year, we had a flow to Stanford of almost 800 million gallons, and our water use was only 460 million gallons. So the remainder of that is I&I. So we're targeting the right areas. We're going to spend the money correctly. And I think, to Craig's point, at the very beginning when I started here 7 years ago, it was nice to come to these meetings and say that we didn't need a rate increase. And I felt good about that. I felt bad 3 or 4 years later when we had to go in for a 5 and a 7. And I think it's smart to, and then Craig has said it, it's smart to slowly continue to kind of put our reserve to where we think we need it to be. And I think that's what we're doing now.
Any other members of the public wish to comment on the proposed potential rate increase? Yes, Ms. McNally.
I totally second what Rolf is saying with the sense of urgency. And, you know, I'm sure he hears it from the public, as I do also. Ed, those numbers you gave, the 800 and the 460, what are the dates on that? When did you get that? Is that for last year?
You're muted, Ed.
I do that all the time. That was last year's flow from July of 2020 to June 30th of 2021.
So before the last 2 major storm events.
Yeah. Do we get information on that?
Do we have information on that?
Yeah. We must. Do you get a monthly breakout?
I have meter readings that go down to the day, sometimes to the hours. Depends on what you want. So what you'll look at is a graph of spikes on each one. I have day readings. I have monthly readings. I take monthly readings. That's what I send to Stanford to look at. I also send them the graphs so they can look at instantaneous flow, because we have limits in our contract on that too.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks. I'll ask you later. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Or thank you.
That's right. Yeah, that's what we're here for. Any other members of the public? Doesn't look like it. I don't see any looking to speak on the potential rate increase. Any emails, Darren, come in before 4 o'clock to our Darien Sewer Commission email?
Sorry. No, not that we're aware of.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make
So
that
moved.
motion.
All right, Bob will get the first and Reese will get the second. Roll call vote. Reese,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So we are now out of public hearing at 4:50 p.m. We're going to move on to our regular meeting agenda, calling it to order at 4:50 p.m. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our last meeting, dated August 3rd in your packet, item number 2.
I actually had a question. At what point in time do we have to stop taking minutes because we have audio and audio records of the meeting?
Not up to us.
Oh, Bob.
Above our pay grade until FOIA changes.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't realize that's where it was.
Yeah, no, this is really, well, it's probably, I don't even know who mandates it. I'm sure it's in the town code. I'm sure it's by state reg. I'm sure it's in the federal FOIA laws. We'll be taking minutes for a while.
Okay. I was just thinking green. That's all.
I'm with you, man. But,
Yeah.
it is nice to have a 3-page summary instead of going to watch a whole hour-long meeting again. Okay, Bob, does that mean you were sick of reading the minutes but wanted to approve them, or was it?
I didn't find anything in there, but I don't know if anyone else did. They may have seen something I didn't. But I'm good with the way the minutes are.
That's a motion. I'll second it.
Okay, that's a motion then. Sorry. It's kind of backhanded motion, but yes.
All right, Bob first, Susan second, Peter is in favor, Reese?
Yeah.
Susan?
Yes. Yes, yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And I'm in favor, so the meeting's passed as authored. Good job. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of a potential sewer extension for 128 Camp Ave. Item 3 in your packet. Darren, do you want to describe to us?
Yeah,
the work-
actually,
You're going out of order, right? Correct?
skip
Am I?
number 2.
The sewer user
Great.
fees would actually be
yeah.
next.
I'm sorry. I apologize. No, I didn't realize I went out of order, so let's get back in line. Item 3 is the proposed amendments to the Town of Darien Code that we just discussed in the public hearing. Instead of getting into, go ahead.
I can make a quick one here. As we learned today, just a second ago, there are some there's probably going to be some fixes to the sewer system that can be hard and fast, that seem to be able to make a impact. So I would be in favor of going the 2.29% rate increase to the amount of $6.70 per CCF.
And to follow your logic, if that gives us a little bit of a surplus this year, that's a good thing because we'll have money in the bank with which to make quick decisions for easy fixes rather than having to get them involved in pulling a bond.
Exactly. 100% what you said.
Do we have a second on Bob's motion?
I would second that.
Peter, I was reading his lips as he raised his hand and said, I second that. So we're going to give the second to Peter.
It's difficult not having video.
Any further discussion on the motion? I would say I never like raising our rates. I am the person least in favor of raising the rates, I feel like, every year. I would love not to raise the rates this year. But I think the writing is on the wall. And I think the 2.29% is a very modest raise, but we will continue to have the flexibility we need to do things quickly as we keep an eye towards the future of some of the bigger bills to come. So,
And Craig, just to follow up on that, you know, I see it a little differently than you do, and I like more money as a reserve. But that aside, if you look at the rate of inflation and our rate of increase, I always kind of look at those two factors, because everything's going to get more expensive, everything we want to do, and in a way we should keep our rates sort of lockstep with inflation. And in this case, we're going to be way under inflation for the first time.
it's only because inflation went higher.
No, I know that.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah.
But all things being relative.
I mean, I'm not quick to raise it myself. I may be a little quicker than you are, Craig, but I just think that having the money there, if we have projects similar to like the manhole, I just think they're things that we should be able to do quickly, and you're getting bang for the buck.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, right? My tendency in the past has generally been when we need the money, we will allocate the rates at that time, and let's not raise it until we need it. But it seems clear that we're making the right choice if we were to move forward with this motion. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, I'll call for a roll call vote. Reese?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So the rate increase to both rate increases to 2.29 or 2.29% are passed. That means the standard charge will be $6.70 per 100 cubic feet of water, and the minimum service charge would be $260.36 per year for properties that might have very low usage. All right, now can I go to number 4?
Yes, you may.
128 Camp Avenue. Mr. Darren, what do you got?
I sent out a PDF to commission members earlier today. Commissioner Hill found an error in my spreadsheet, and so the assessment and future extension fee of the future extension, if there was one, be a little bit less, probably be about 72.5 instead of 75,000. The police were double counted. The way I came up with this estimate was using our most recent project, which was Clocks Lane and Settlers Trail. Although it's a different animal, most of the money is in trench and excavation. So it's the fact that it's a low pressure pipe or a larger gravity pipe is not that significant. We inflated it 2% per year for inflation, and then added on a 10% contingency. So we have seen sewer benefit appraisals come back at $75,000. Maybe not in the Camp neighborhood, but it is possible. It is possible that an appraisal would come back where the benefit would be exceed the estimated assessment. By the way, I think I put in 50% rock, so that's in Settlers Trail, it turned out to be much more than 50%. But you never know. You could have no rock, or you could have, over 90.
So what Darren was referencing was the idea or requirement that we can't levy a sewer assessment on a property that's greater than the value of the potential benefit.
Correct.
And at 72.5, we are pushing the upper limits of the what I would call the property value, the potential property value benefit to be hooked up to the sewer. So it's not a no-brainer. Now you've identified 8 potential connections, and one of the connections would be a future Petticoat Lane connection, and one of the 8 connections would be a future Hollow Tree Ridge Road connection. I guess that's typical, since those would both require their own extensions.
That is correct.
That you charge them for one to get onto this extension, but then they're going to be spending their own money on the other extension.
That is correct. And also to illustrate your point, in the spreadsheet is payment to REM Development, who extended the sewer up Camp Avenue from the previous extension, which is about 19,000. It's 19,000 and change. So that's in there. And the fact that I guess it would make sense to mention that you accurately described everything with regards to the law. We're not allowed to charge people more than it's worth, which makes sense. That says nothing about whether people would be willing to spend that money or they would be interested in the sewer at that cost. So I
have a question. One of the biggest expenses is paving. And I was wondering what the paving schedule was on that road. When it was last done or when it was planned to be done, because that could possibly change it. My other question is there gas and or domestic water on that road, which possibly you could do some kind of joint deal with them as they're tearing up the road?
No gas.
Is there gas on Hollow Tree there? I can't remember. No? All right. Just thinking outside the box.
Yeah, and just one more curveball in Bob's vein there. Is it worth extending the opportunity further up Hollow Tree to amortize the cost to more people and lower the per unit cost?
Well, if you
or
take
run it up Petticoat and count each house as a connection, kind of a thing, rather than one connection later.
Well, there's only 3 houses on Petticoat.
And it's a pretty long run also, and the people on Petticoat would have to, they don't have to, you can ram it down their throat, but you've never done that before. The people on Petticoat would usually have to agree for the sewer commission to proceed. Now, if you're coming up Camp and you hit Hollow Tree and you take a right, you don't go very far before you hit Stephanie Lane, which already has a sewer out to Hollow Tree Ridge. So you're not going to get very many. And across the street is the country club, so you get 0 there. You'd have to go left, and after you turn left on the right-hand side, it's all country club.
So you're only getting, and in these larger zones, in the 1 acre zone and moving on to the 2 acre zone, it's a lot of additional length to get the next house.
That's a good thought. And that's what we usually do to try and see if we can make a project go forward.
Is it worth just putting a survey back to the 8 homes that could potentially be hooked up and seeing if we get 5 out of 8 that say yay?
Well, yeah. I mean, the decision we're making tonight, or if we make any decision tonight, is, hey, let's take this next step or that next step. It's not just to say yes or no, right? This is a climbing a ladder. I also note that Petticoat's a private road too, right? So that adds that complication.
Petticoat is private.
So that adds that complication that we're not the ones in charge of deciding whether or not we go down that road.
Well, I was just thinking, rather than do the benefit appraisal and spend that $1,000 or whatever that process might entail, why not just give them these soft numbers and say, what do you guys all think?
That's right. That would be the next step in the process. The commission asked staff to work up some numbers for your review. That's what we've done. If you wanted us to go forward, it would make sense for us to send out a letter to the affected residents and see what their interest is. That's what we usually do.
Now, this was requested by a particular property owner, right? That the initial thought was it the owners of 128 that said, would you guys consider it? Is that correct?
I don't remember the number, but I'll take your word for it. That's what happened. There was
That's
one
what on the
person who was
agenda.
interested.
And so what if we first went back to that one person and said, well, these are our initial budget estimates. Are you still interested?
That's a great idea. That's great. That's perfect, Craig. Yeah, before you even put a lot of pen to paper, just say, this is the ballpark. What do you think? And a no
This
means
is how
a
it would
no.
work. Your property would be assessed, we bond it, your property would be assessed, you pay an amount every year, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Okay.
And hey, just to give Bob a little bit more information I was looking for, Camp Avenue is 2011 was last paved, so it's only 10 years old. Not ready to see another paving for 10 more years. And there is gas up to Jackson Place from Camp Avenue. They actually just replaced it. And I did ask them about extension at that time, and they were not interested in extending the gas main any further to the east on Camp towards Hollow Tree.
They tend to have the same concern when you get into larger zoned lots. You got to lay down a lot of gas main and not sell a lot of gas per foot.
Mm-hmm.
You need swimming pools to heat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
So
Ed.
we've given staff some guidance. Does anybody else have any further comment or question on this agenda item? All right. With that, why don't we move on? Item number 5. This looks exciting. The fines for sump pump connections to sanitary sewers, discussion and action. Somebody is looking for the stick. You're on mute, Ed, but I do want to hear all about it.
Me too.
Let me unmute myself again.
Yeah.
As you're aware, we're with these last couple storms and even with our I&I study, we've been coming across inflow. And we're going to have to start dealing with some of the connections, whether it be a catch basin we find in a parking lot, sump pumps, roof drains, whatever it may be, the smoke test may show. But there's going to have to be, and I think this is more of a discussion at this point, and action may be just some further investigation of other towns, but I think we have to start putting together some incentive to get the folks to disconnect from our sanitary sewer and a timeline to discharge to another venue, whether it be to the surface, storm drainage, or a dry well, or whatever it may be.
When does our letter go out?
It's, Darren, it's supposed to go out with the bills, correct?
That's correct. So it's coming right up in October.
And that is going to look something like the draft I sent you earlier this month.
Exactly.
And just to show everybody, this is kind of what it looks like now. So there's a paragraph under the header, sump pumps and similar must be disconnected from the sanitary sewer. And there's a paragraph under the header of backflow valves are required if plumbing fixtures are below street level. And then there's a what to do if you experience a sewage backup link. And that's the letter, I guess, that we're going to send out. So this is our soft approach first, right? To send out this is what you need to do. But, you know, I agree. At some point, we need teeth. We don't, and I think it's inappropriate. Well, I think we should start talking about it. I think we should look to see if other municipalities have done something similar. I think we should talk to the town attorney on what they feel about the legality of it. But, you know, since that all takes many months, and then we would be talking about a revision to the Code of Ordinance. I mean, we're 6 months away from actually doing something and putting a rule in place if we could. But I'm in favor of starting that process. And I think over that 6 months, we'll be getting our final report from Arcadis, and we'll understand the scope and scale of the problem a little bit better.
I mean, in the meeting, the 8 of us at the moment, I believe we know where our sump pumps discharge. I think if you were to poll the average person in Darien, they probably don't know. A lot, I mean, some of them do, but I believe a lot of them do not know. So while you were speaking, I had this out of the box thought. How about somehow we have them have to respond to something that basically says, where does your sump pump discharge? So they have to do some homework, and some of them may learn that they are illegally connected to the sewer system and change it all by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, sure. How would that? How would that?
I don't know. I just kind of
Yeah.
thought of it all of a sudden. I need
Yeah.
help on this one.
Yeah. Look, I think I just want to be armed with information on this before we, you know, move seriously in any particular direction. I think this letter is a good start. I think when we get information from Arcadis and they say, you know, it looks like some pumps are a real problem on these 4 streets. Well, you know, then we can follow up with targeted correspondence to those 4 streets, right? And maybe that's part of it. You know, we're trying to determine which houses are connected, and we need you to determine that. You know, please answer here. But so let's before we just try to, that's what I would do. Yes, Mr. Oben.
Yes, thank you. May I make a comment?
Please.
I think part of the information that homeowners would be interested in dovetails in with the Planning and Zoning Commission, because they have, whenever someone brings up the word drainage, they get they perk up, and they're also very interested about keeping a resident's water on their property. And so if people are going to have to move their discharge off the sewer system and bring that out somehow, I think there needs to be clarification about the Planning and Zoning Commission in this regard. You had mentioned about possibly allowing these to be channeled down to the stormwater drainage. I'm not sure that Planning and Zoning would necessarily be on the same page with that. As I mentioned earlier, they always seem to perk up when you bring up drainage, yard drainage, that they say, yes, you must keep that water on your property.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Oben. Yeah, we've dealt with a lot of these concerns in the past. As you have stated, the Planning and Zoning Commission has some jurisdiction over stormwater management because there is a stormwater management regulation that is a zoning regulation. So they're given the authority to review drainage plans. And although the idea is to not release more water off your property than leaves it today, or would leave it in a undeveloped condition, depending on the circumstances of the application, there is always an overflow. There is always a way for water to flow downstream. In the past, the prior director of Public Works, Bob Steger, was a little more reticent to allow sump pump connections into the city storm system. Our current director, understanding both sides of the equation, is a little more willing to see those connections because he understands the corollary of the problem. But these can get into sensitive issues between neighbors when all of a sudden a sump pump discharge that might have gone to the sanitary sewer and nobody saw and nobody cared about, all of a sudden is leaking at the surface of the ground and going over a property boundary. And that's not going to make anybody happy. So it needs to be done with care and caution. You are correct.
Yeah, I only mentioned it because, you know, I think I would like to see Planning and Zoning Commission come out with a clarification of what their position is about how a resident can go about rechanneling their discharge from their sump pumps and not get, you know, cited for some sort of illegal or inappropriate way to channel water.
We're also lucky enough to have two past members of Planning and Zoning on this commission now, in Susan and Reese. And the first rule really in any code is do no harm, right? So you can't discharge your sump pump in a manner that would do harm to your neighbor. But Susan, did you have something to say?
I do have something to say. I'm going to start with that I would like to see the engineers start giving us volume rather than peak flow, because I think that's a huge piece of the stormwater regulations and the fact that we know that more volume is coming off of the sites where they can manage the peak flow, which is just a mathematical number. I don't think that it should just be the fact that it's going to cause harm to a building. I've always felt that you should keep your water on your property and not flood someone's backyard. So now their backyard is not usable. I'm totally on board with that. I don't know why we are allowing connections, but I'm going to trust that Mr. Gentile knows what he's doing, and he is looking at these projects. Basically, the rule says that you need to either show from an engineer's point of view that you can handle it, or you can't do your project when you are putting stormwater out and building 9-foot basements that don't need to be there. I think it depends on what you're looking at. Now you're talking about having a fine. I think a fine is a good idea down the road, but I think that for people to correct these issues is going to cost them some money. But like we saw with the fog ordinance, I believe there we had to eventually come around to saying now we're going to fine people because they're not following the rules. So you do eventually have to have a stick. Reese, you have anything to say?
Yeah, I'll jump in there a little bit. The regulations under planning and zoning, and Craig nibbled at it a bit, are more of a threshold. When you do 1,000 square feet of new impervious coverage, you're then required to manage the 50-year storm on site, which isn't like a catch-all to manage all water forever. It's just something that we all thought from 2007 when Susan Craig and I actually sat on the flood mitigation strategy committee, came up with as an idea, a little bit of the Greenwich 110-page manual down to a more reasonable, how do you do it? But Susan, I think, and everyone, you guys have all talked about every situation's unique. And where people have extensive flooding in their basement and a sump pump pumping into the sanitary sewer, they're probably in a condition where the house should never have been built there in many instances. And they're just finding the only solution. If they were to pump it into their yard, it would probably come right back into their basement. If there is a storm water system available, the public storm water, it may be a better option, but there's definitely neighborhood interest there as well. So it's kind of like, it's a problem that's being passed to somewhere, some way, whether it's conveyed in the stormwater system or illegally put into the sanitary sewer. It's a condition that exasperates itself either way and can cause harm to a neighbor. So as Craig pointed out, like maybe if it discharged on your own lawn and slowly percolated downhill where it would have gone anyway, it wouldn't cause a harm to a neighbor. But if it was a pipe jammed right on the property line, spraying like a fire hose, well, then Houston, we have a problem. So I think it's more situational, how you go about looking for solutions. Everyone's going to be unique and have unique opportunities. And an engineer would certainly be someone with Craig's brain, an incredibly valuable asset to solve a lot of these problems. and maybe the town hall and planning and zoning and everyone else can be more receptive to how to help people look for solutions. But it's always going to be difficult. The situation really is created by a house being built somewhere with a basement that isn't appropriate. And that's to Susan's point. And we saw that over and over again on planning and zoning, where, you know, everyone needed a 9-foot basement and then 5 sump pumps, and it really was counterintuitive. So that's just a couple things to think about, that every situation is going to be unique.
I got it.
Thank
you.
Go ahead, Peter.
In some situations, people have to have the sump pump in order to, so to speak, survive. When that happens, if they're pumping into the sewer system, they should be charged for pumping into the sewer system the same rate, you know, as anything else. In other words, they'd have to have a meter on there that has to be read, and that gets added in. It's like New Jersey. They keep building in the low places. They keep getting flooded, and people keep saying, "Oh, this is the end of the world, and it's going to happen more and more." But not a darn thing has been done to mitigate the flood waters when it comes. They did it down in New Orleans, and the pump and levee system works. So there is a solution. The solution is, if they have to pump into the sewer, then they pay for pumping in the sewer. We might also someday send out a letter to people saying, we'd like to know if you have a... And, you know, after a while, if you suspect they do, maybe you offer inspection. And if there's no sump pump, fine. If there is, well, you move on from there and see what you have to do. But they're going to have to be routed out one by one.
Yeah, so these are all good ideas. I think we all understand the situation that we're heading towards, right? We want to go ahead with the letter because that's the first foray. We're aware that it's not going to be the last, that each disconnection has to be done thoughtfully. So to that end, I wonder if we need to make a edit to the letter, right? We say sump pumps and similar must be disconnected. We should probably have a sentence in there, and discharged in a manner that does not cause impact to adjacent or downstream properties, right?
Brilliant, Craig. Yep.
And I think it definitely needs to be impact, not harm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I see both of our trusty staff members writing diligently for that edit. Soon we will see it when the letter comes. I also agree with Peter in that there are certain unique situations where there may not be any choice but to continue the connection of a sump pump to a sewer. And in those situations, I agree that the right thing to do is if it's running through our infrastructure and everybody else is paying for it, then they ought to pay for it too. So that is another change to consider in the future. We should write that down and put that in our toolbox.
Craig, I think you just need to be cognizant that our sewer system is designed for a certain capacity, and we don't want to start taking up capacity with a lot of stormwater. I can understand circumstances where it's the last resort,
Yes.
but I don't think it should be the easiest solution.
Yes.
Pick first. That's all.
I concur. So when the
I think
language gets drafted,
the expense alone will drive most people to seek other alternatives.
yeah, the price will likely be prohibitive, but yes, I agree with that too.
I don't think we can count on that. We shouldn't count on them. Not
I
here.
also agree with Susan. Some some people that doesn't disturb them. So I like Ed's language of last resort. And that would have to be, yes, Darren.
We had one instance where a builder was developing a house, dug the hole for the foundation. It was located on top of a hill. The foundation filled up with water overnight. They had no way of getting rid of the groundwater. They could not build their house. There was no drainage system in front of their house. The sewer commission did allow them to connect to the sewer.
When was this?
We made them meter the water.
Oh, okay.
And one of the caveats was, under no circumstances will you discharge during a storm. And then once the house was built, we didn't allow them to connect anymore, but they extended the drainage system a couple 100 feet up the road to connect their footing drains.
So they paid for an infrastructure improvement, so they didn't have to pay the sewer user charge.
Yeah, and it was never intended, the sewer commission never intended for that to be a permanent arrangement. And luckily there was at least drainage on the street. But,
where was that house, Darren?
Knollwood Lane. It goes down and up. It was on one of the ridges on Knollwood Lane on the north side of the street. It was just unbelievable how on the top of a hill that foundation could fill up right. They basically poured, even after they poured concrete, they created a swimming pool. It just filled right up.
Wow.
You wouldn't expect it.
No.
That predates my time.
I think so.
All right, so the item on the agenda was fines for sump pump connections, question mark. Obviously, that's a thorny and bigger issue, but I think
let's move it down the field either way, Craig.
Yeah. We want to learn more and understand what tools we are going to be able to have in the toolbox to effectively compel these disconnections.
Maybe look at other towns, like see what they've got going.
So the letter goes out in October. Find out what other towns are doing. You talked about the town attorney, but you don't want us to go to the town attorney yet, right?
Whatever you think the right order of operations is.
Okay, so we could do whatever we want.
Yes, investigate it. Give us more information. I trust you.
We'll come back to you with the letter that's going out in October, unless it already went out. Maybe we'll have some stuff that other towns have done. Okay?
Yep.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I get you guys the right stuff.
Anything else on sump pumps before we continue? All right, item number 6 on the agenda is next year's schedule. Somewhere. July 5th being the day immediately after July 4th. What's the calendar look like on that day? That looks fine for me. And November 1st is going to be well ahead of any election day, if there even is one next.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. I guess I still don't understand. I always thought it was the first Tuesday, and we usually take the second Tuesday in November, specifically for that reason, but the internet is showing that it's going to be the second Tuesday for election day, so stick to the first if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, those are the two ones we run into. And you guys are good on January 4th, putting the agenda together, even though we got the holiday the week before?
Yeah, we don't have a problem.
Okay.
We'll get the agenda done.
Sounds good.
Notice how confident Darren is. He won't be here to do it, so.
You are to approve his vacation. You're going to be the one. All right.
I'll do it from vacation if necessary. I don't think I have scheduled vacation, but.
Any further comments on the schedule? All right, can I get a motion to approve it?
Prove it.
I'll move it.
Peter moves, Reese seconds, Susan says yes, Bob says
Yes.
yes, Peter says,
Yes.
and Reese says.
Yes.
And I say yes, so the schedule's approved. Item number 7, superintendent's report. What's going on in town, gentlemen?
Let's talk about some smoke testing. Craig stole a little thunder today from me, but that's okay.
Sorry, I was quick to share good news.
That it was our first day. We started at 11:30. We went till around 3:30ish or so. So it was basically half a day. They were coming down from New Hampshire, so they got a little late start, but they will be here the rest of the week. Hopefully rain won't delay us on any of the days, but it looks like maybe Thursday it might rain. But we're going to be at Corbin Drive finishing up. Wednesday up in the Upper Mansfield area for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and going into next week. Then where we'll transition over to the Leroy area. You guys all saw the map that we had sent out, locations that we're doing the smoke test. Hopefully it got out to all the folks in that area or close to that area. So we haven't gotten any phone calls yet, but we're going into residential tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. So there's a chance that we'll get some calls then, but hopefully very few. Any action that requires us to go on people's property, I have required them to at least knock on the front door to allow those folks to know that we're there, not just show up in their backyard looking for smoke coming out of any type of vents or anything like that. So we have our guys with them out in the field right now too. So there's some representation from the town. So that'll keep going. I'll give you an update after it's done, or at the next meeting, whichever comes first. With regards to a report or anything significant findings, I may shoot you an email just to let you know. But this is the exciting part because it's visual. You can see it. They're hard connections. They're substantial impacts to our system. And like it was pointed out earlier, I want to jump in there. I want to block off that catch basin tomorrow. I want to stop the flow immediately. So my phone call tomorrow will probably be to David Genovese to see what we can do about that catch basin.
Do we know which one it is? It's to the left of the post office when you're looking at it.
They didn't tell me exactly which one it was, but
Yeah.
there's significant drainage from the parking lot that goes to it. And it's not, from what I was told, it's not a small area. It's quite a large area. I wouldn't be surprised if the roofs are connected there too, but I don't want to speak out of turn. I haven't gotten that information back yet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
So
that was my next question, which is how quickly can we solve the problem? If it's not an issue to block a catch basin, you're not causing some other problem. There's a way for it to overflow somewhere. Like, yeah, let's do it.
Well, you may have to put a temporary 6-inch or 8-inch line to something that does drain, but not the sanitary sewer. And he's usually very, very easy and accommodating to work, especially with something like this that's a gross violation, something that's impacting the town. They've always been very accommodating.
All right. Well, let us know how that goes.
Okay. The other piece is we did get some information back from our video. We do have a section of piping that we're going to need to reline. Old Kings Highway South, the discharge from the 5 Mile pump station all the way down Old Kings Highway to Quaker has significant deterioration in the piping, manholes, and so on. So we're already jumping in on that. We're going to put that out to bid immediately and get that work taken care of. It'll be part of our restoration. It's asbestos concrete pipe. It should be lined anyway. It's just getting ahead of the curve only because of the deterioration in a lot of the piping system. We're just afraid if we wait a year to get to it and put it on the list and do all the reporting that we may have a failure out there, and I don't want to wait. So you'll hear more about that next month. I have proposals from Arcadis on further inspection and then project administration. So that those are things I'm working on right now.
I remember when we had our meeting with Arcadis, they talked about different methods for lining a pipe and what you're able to do at lateral connections.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just kind of flap the lateral. Sometimes you can actually balloon up the lateral and do a little bit of the lateral. Are we looking for guidance on that with this first kind of action?
It just so happens that their proposal is to do some further video inspection of those laterals because some of them did show deterioration from the pumping. So that's our first step. We have to go out and do a little bit more inspection to define the scope of the work that included the main, the manholes, and the laterals, to what extent the laterals need to be done. Some may need to be lined quite a bit. Some may need to be, like you said, just a hard top hat put in, which is usually the first 3 or 4 feet of the sewer lateral to be lined. So there's some approaches that we can, and they may be dictated by the condition of the laterals themselves.
What's the closest intersection to where the force main discharges? The 5 mile.
If I had to say top of the hill, would that tell you?
Andrews Drive.
Andrews Drive.
Just to the west of Andrews Drive after the hairpin S curve.
When you go up basically that hill. Okay. And so there goes gravity, and you're talking about from there down to
In
about
front of number 77, Old Kings Highway South.
It's about 3,500 feet.
Okay. That's quite a line job.
It is. It's going to take it will take some time to do that that entire length.
Okay, great.
Okay. The next one is a near water pump station. I'm going to acquiesce to Darren a little bit here on the first half of this, only because he was here and I was not. And I think he can describe the photos to you a little bit and talk about what went into doing what they did down there. So Darren, jump in, if you would, please.
Thank you. Well, you can see in the pictures in the package that we burned the station again. Tropical Storm Henri was predicted to have extremely high tide surges, 4.5 feet, 3.5 feet higher than normal. So we made the decision to berm all the places that water could get in and potentially give us a big problem. So if you look on the left of page 1 of 7 in the photograph there, you could see a window well that had been blocked up previously. The commission asked us to hardscape some of the lower openings. We did. That was done years ago. But still, we were concerned about the front door. Also, the generator in the round room, we sandbagged that. This was all done on a Sunday and during overtime. On page 3 of 7, you can see what looks like a little missile silo. That's our transformer, which is located in a section of the site that's quite low compared to the first floor of the near water pump station. That surprises me that that would be flooded first, and to my knowledge we've never had a problem with it, but it looks like it's something that we probably should be concerned about. So upon Ed's return, when he saw that, he wanted to leave the berm in place because it is markedly lower than the first floor. We plan to definitively determine what the elevation is of the pump station and look at other hardscaping options that we might have. we've been talking about a lot of different ways that we could do this, and also to protect the Norotan Bay Station, which is out in the field in the post road there. Interestingly, with the most recent tropical storm, Ida, this agenda package went out before Ida actually happened. It was already in the mail. Despite the enormous amount of rain that we had, there were no such predictions for a higher tide cycle. There were no predictions of a hurricane swirling wind pushing water into the sound, which would drive up the tides. There was no coincidence with a higher lunar tide. So we did not, even though we knew we would get a lot of rain, and we did get at least as much rain as they predicted, we did not burn the station for Ida, and we were fine. Turns out we were fine also with Henri. We really missed a bullet. If you were watching the radar, when it hit up near the Rhode Island border, the storm kind of dispersed, and then it became a much less intense rain that just sat on us, and it rained for a couple days more. It never really did leave the area and go to Maine like it was supposed to, but that was fine, because once it hit us, it dispersed, we were able to function well. Any questions on any of that?
Let's thank you, Darren. Let's just talk briefly about what our next steps are. I mean, this is the second time I've heard we've had to do this. Upon my return, I did do a quick evaluation of what was done out there. We're taking a look at both Stony Brook and Nearwater now. We're going to properly prepare these pump stations even more than they were previously. We're going to build up a little bit higher. We're going to look to protect the transformer. We are contacting Eversource to see if we can elevate that transformer higher, or even if it's able to be moved and either put on a pole or something to that effect. The Norotan Bay pump station, we've bermed around, or we're going to berm around that one to make sure we protect it, though it's not absolutely necessary because it will flow gravity. I felt it was necessary to protect our equipment. So we're looking at door stops, we're looking at door dams. We are building some, we're looking to get prices to build some walls over at Stony Brook too. That got up to about 6 inches above the doorway, but we had sandbagged everything. It just started to trickle through a little bit. The transformer had almost 2 feet of water on it. So we're having Eversource come and look at that one also to see if we can elevate it. We're getting prices to elevate our generator in the back. I'm lifting everything up. That station, that Stony Brook station, has to be better protected. We didn't know to what extent until this last storm. We're going to use that at a gauge to a certain datum, and I'm going to add a foot to that, and I'm going to make sure that we're above that with all access to our structures and our generators and our transformers. So that's what we're working on right now, getting prices to do all of that. Tony's been working on it now for about a week, putting the information together.
Craig, I have a question about Stony Brook.
Please.
Sure, go ahead.
Has the embankment that has fallen down into the river and is blocking part of the culvert going underneath the post road, has that been repaired?
The embankment from the private property?
Yes.
I don't know. Last time I saw it, it was still standing. So if it has fallen into the river, I was not aware of that.
Well, no, years ago, it was blocking part of the flow underneath the post road. I know the property.
Darren's gonna help you with
I think I'll try. Are you talking about when the stone wall collapsed? Okay. Yeah, that was a long time ago. And if you remember, the owner, I don't know if you were on yet or not, the the owner showed up at a sewer commission meeting and said he just had someone in town come with their backhoe and yank the wall out. It didn't stay very long. It's been gone for years and years, if that's what you mean. There are other sections of walls which are suspect, and they don't look healthy. But as far as the one that collapsed and fell down like a piece of card, like a cardboard house, that was removed shortly after it fell.
Okay, that piece I think is closer to Renshaw Road. I'm talking about the house that's right on the Post Road.
So am I.
It changed recently? Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was another.
The section of wall that fell was very, very close to the bridge. Very, very close to the Post Road Bridge. I think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I was on EPC then, and I think we chatted about it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that particular piece? We'll give you more updates next month on what we've done, because I expect that we'll be doing some work in the meantime.
I don't have a question, but I have a quick statement. I want to personally, as a member of the commission and as a Darien taxpayer, thank those of you who had to spend, nights out dealing with this storm away from your house and family. I've been there, done that, and it's a thankless job, and I want to thank you.
Two of us. Thank you, guys.
And I second that.
I'm clapping along.
Listen, I thank all of you. Listen, you've all been very supportive of the work that we do here and what we have to do. It is part of the job to come in, but I can tell you from being in it now last couple of years, it's gut wrenching to see it out there. But we'll continue to show up and continue to do our job, and we'll continue to protect the infrastructure that we have here. And I think that's the most important thing I got out of this last couple of weeks is how important it is, and how stressful it is to see if your work is going to hold up, and it did hold up in some circumstances. In others, we showed where we had some weak points we have to address, and I think it's important to go after those as quickly as we possibly can right now with our most important infrastructure system, which is our sanitary sewer pump system, to be honest with you. The last piece is, and it's one of my favorite topics to talk about, is the Neurovan Bay access through the pump station. As you see in one of our pictures, we did leave access to the gate open. And I just want to reiterate, as I think more put it on notice that we are still doing that, and I think it's important that we all know that during certain times I get very nervous about that pump station down there and how we have to protect it and what we have to do to protect it, because sooner or later someone's going to want to try to get through there when that water is in there. And my fear is that they don't make it all the way through, or they hit something going through. We have critical infrastructure in there, and I understand they need emergency access. They need to get to their homes. I understand that completely. I was a little displeased, if you will, in the approach they took when I asked them to take a look at it before they paved. I didn't get the feeling that they put their whole heart and effort into maybe repairing that entranceway a little bit. But I just want to bring it to your attention again, understanding that if you look at that picture, we left them access through our facility, specifically to have emergency access, which they needed. But I'm still nervous about that approach down in that area, letting a full neighborhood go in through our facility during a time when it's unpredictable what's going to happen down on that coast.
Ed, from an elevation perspective, is Short Lane, could that, what used to be the property next to the beach, is that a similar elevation to the pump station, or is that 2 or 3 feet lower? In other words, could they create a temporary road through the Short Lane property from the beach and have the same result?
Reese,
not go through the pump station.
I don't want to misspeak and give you a number. I believe it's a little bit lower, but without looking at the topography, I can't confirm that 100%.
Reese,
So
I
that's
lived down there when it flooded in the 70s, when we had
Yeah.
that storm that came through. And the issue you will have is that the parking lot that you're going to come into at the beach is lower.
Will be
Because
flooded.
I
Yeah, it's lower.
They did not flood out a short lane behind me, but between me and them was 9 feet of water.
Yeah, okay. I'm just thinking like maybe Ed should just have the call when it's a situation that bad, close the road. Don't let Norotan Bay in or out. And, if it reaches a certain elevation, shut it. So that doesn't happen.
But, we're dealing with public safety. We really
That's
have
true.
no choice if we have the ability to keep people a little safer, right? Like we're a little bit, between a rock and a hard place.
Yep.
On the one
I
hand,
get it, Chris.
we have no choice to keep people safe. On the other hand, they're not doing everything they can do to keep themselves safe.
I think they need to raise the road. I thought we discussed that. No? Them raising the
Yeah.
road there?
That's exactly what we discussed.
Okay.
They could probably get another 12 inches out of it, which reduces the number of times we have to leave the gates open.
But if you're saying it's a public safety issue, then basically the cars should only be exiting. They should not be returning home. It's not a safety issue then. It's they want to go home and watch TV.
I worry about it.
I'm sorry, I've been on fire calls where people were, they could have dealt with it themselves, but didn't want to. And that's the same situation. They had to go out to the store and come back. And they're using this. I don't believe it should be a two-way thoroughfare. If they have to leave because the water's getting that hot, that would be one thing. But to go back home is a different situation.
Yeah, wait for the water to recede.
But even if they're leaving and their car gets picked up and then smashes into the transformer or smashes into the building, I think we should not be having people ride through there.
I'm saying if you have to leave it open, it should be an exit only.
Well, then you're judging why people need to get back. Maybe their kids are home and they're not. And maybe, whatever, their grandparents live down there, but they don't, right? So then you have to have someone standing there saying, why are you going this way?
Then it should be a welfare check done by professionals, either the police or the fire department. They should not be doing it.
I think that just as a commission, we need to leave this into Ed's hands. At some point, he does have to protect the infrastructure and weigh it with public safety. And that's a case-by-case basis, right, on the fly. So flexibility, I would say flexibility is in your hands, Ed. Whatever you think is the right thing to do at each point.
I think he's looking for some guidance and support. And in that case, I'm 100% behind your guidance and I'm giving you 100% support.
Amen.
Anything else, Ed?
No, I think Darren just wants to touch on the Brookside survey really quick, and then that's it for the superintendent's report, unless you have some questions. Darren?
Yes, the sewer commission last month asked about we reported that the Brookside pump station property had been staked, and that we had heard from some residents over there. And some of the commission members had a question about whether or not that information was recorded in land records. And we reported that we did not hire the surveyor to prepare a map, but we were sure that he got his information from our land records. And in fact, it does turn out that he did get his information from our land records. There's 2 pages at the end of the agenda. However, there is not a formal map for our pump station. It's not necessary. They used the omission of pump station formal survey map of its own. In other words, they staked out all of our boundary based on our neighbors' boundaries, and what's left over is ours. Does that make sense? Okay.
How much would it cost to put file the map?
I don't know, probably $1,000, $500.
I would do that.
If you feel it's necessary,
No, it's just,
we could.
I mean, look what, yeah,
It's
go to
ours.
Fairmead Road and the fence, and you just never know with property.
Well,
Craig could talk about good surveys and what value they might have.
Everybody should be able to find the records when they need them.
yeah, if you look at page 1 of 2, you can see it says Town of Darien,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not that's not specific to just our lot, and it does not include our lot comprehensively. But that, along with page 2 of 2, tells the tale. But
Where's the pump station in 2 of 2?
It's one of those lots.
I mean, I'm guessing it's lot number 23, right by where it says right, as in right of way.
I'm actually having trouble reading this map. It's very blurry.
Because the map of Hillside and then this unlabeled road should be Anthony Lane, and where right of way is now Brookside Drive, if I remember correctly.
Hey, Bob, is the map on here shows lot 23 as being 100 feet in width, and the page 1 of 2 will show 2 25-foot access ways and a 50-foot lot for our pump station. So I think it's a portion of lot 23.
Okay. I would have to agree with Reese on this one, because I mean, no disrespect, but 2 of 2 is from over 113 years ago. It's from July of 1908. And I vaguely remember 1908, but not so well.
I'd love to see a better version of this map. Again, I'm having trouble even reading it.
If
All right, well, we'll get prices. We'll get prices to do a map for the Brookside pump station.
Or if you guys authorize up to $1,000, we'll just go ahead and do it. And if it's more, come back.
I'll make a motion to authorize up to $1,000.
All right.
I'm in favor.
We have a motion on the floor to authorize staff to spend up to $1,000 to get a survey of the Brookside pump station property.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I probably misspoke. I don't think we take action under a superintendent's report. Should you do new business?
Oh,
just
sorry.
prices.
Moving to other new business.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know why you need us agreeing for every $1,000 you spend to do the right thing. Anyway.
A nod and a wink. We'll go for it.
If
it's over $1,000, we'll come back.
Sounds fine. That seems to be a fine expense that you would normally make when you needed things done.
Thank you.
Anything else on the superintendent's report? Any questions for the superintendent? Well, it sounds like we're on any new business under 8. Everybody holds their breath. All right.
I got crickets over here.
Peter, you're up.
Okay, I make a motion for an adjournment.
All right. Motion to adjourn at 5:58. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Not a roll call vote, but we'll adjourn anyway.
Okay, so I'm going to stop recording now since we are adjourned.